Hi, I'm Kathy, the Celtic Mink, with Celtic Mink comments on the news, because Grandma got a YouTube channel. So, there is so much going on. There is so much to keep up with, so as usual, I just selected a few pieces of the news to comment on. Starting with, why is our government being run by two men with daddy issues? Elon Musk and Donald Trump, both unloved by their fathers, rich men who gave them everything they could ever want except love, creating a black hole in their soul so large it appears nothing can fill it. There's not enough money. There's not enough public affirmation. There's not enough admiration to fill the hole these men have, because there's never going to be enough to replace daddy's love, because daddy never gave it, and everything else they try to use to fill it, money, admiration, women, even children, just doesn't seem to be working for them. Even being Musk, the richest man in the world, Trump, the most powerful man in the world, and yet they are living in their own pasts that are done and gone, pasts that they've already made choices about. All we have is the present and the future and the choices we make to choose the best life we can live. And they aren't doing it, and because they aren't doing it, they are effing the rest of us in this country over. I mean, right now, the Republicans hold both houses of Congress, the executive branch with Trump as president, and 4 conservative Supreme Court justices. There is no one to blame about what is going on in this country right now, because they hold all the keys to the kingdom. And still, somehow, the Democrats, who are in the minority, who don't have the power, are getting blamed for the decisions of Musk and Donald Trump. Explain this to me, how the minority party, who can't even get a bill onto the floor unless the House Speaker approves it, or the Senate Majority Leader approves it, they don't even get a say in getting a bill to the floor. So, how did the Democrats cause this problem? When somebody knows it's better and smarter than me, put it in the comments section and explain it to me, because I still don't understand. So, meanwhile, Congress, as I said, and Trump, president, have ceded all their power to dictator Musk, traitor, and now the courts have ruled against both Musk and Trump on everything they have tried to accomplish. So what are the new talking points? The Republicans, the party of law and order, the platform they have run on my entire life for over 50 years. And now they want to be scofflaws. They're saying ignore the court's ruling, that Trump and Musk are right, and we don't need to listen to the courts, the very courts that are the source of interpreting the law and creating the order that that law is supposed to have. Well, welcome to the new scofflaws, Republicans. Let's see what happens. And now, Dictator Musk wants access to the Internal Revenue Service and all our private data there. Now, he requested this over the weekend. I don't know what has happened because I haven't seen any news articles beyond the fact that he has requested access. not that he has been given access. The Internal Revenue Service is the primary collector of taxes. Taxes are our primary source of income for the country. This is how we get the money that the country gets to spend. Now, Congress decides how we spend it, but somebody has to actually collect the money and give it to the government so they have something to spend in the first place. And they want to tear up the Internal Revenue Service, our primary income collector. So, if you can't collect the money, you're not going to have any money to spend. So, I can't wait to see how this is going to unfold. So, just asking for a friend, what do you think is going to happen next? Now, and here's a new talking point from some stupid blue dog Democrats. Hey, we should just go along to get along. Let's see what Musk is going to do. Let's just let this play out. Why don't we just hand our government over to dictator Musk traitor? That's all I gotta say. Go along to get along? Even the courts aren't letting us go along to get along. But so far, nobody's enforcing their rules. Where's the court's teeth? When is something going to happen to enforce these rulings? And meanwhile, at least according to the right wing, everything Musk is doing is just so popular with the people in this country. I suggest you Google the polls and find out what people really think, because I don't think I trust the polls on X. And meanwhile, Musk, who owns Twitter, now X, went out and bought his own social media platform, has pretty much chased off everybody, including a large number of its advertisers, reduced the revenue, reduced the entire value of X, controls the algorithm, has expanded his reach thanks to controlling the algorithm. And if he doesn't like what you gotta say, all of a sudden your account is banned, temporarily blocked, or even completely deleted. Yeah, that's a man who wants to hear from the people on his own platform. And meanwhile, this man who is trying to run our country into the ground, this man who owns more businesses than I have fingers on my hand to count, who supposedly works 80 to 120 hours a week, has time to post over 200 times a day on X just to get his own opinion out. Does that sound like addictive behavior to you? I mean, there is physical addictions like alcohol. There are emotional addictions like gambling or sex. But apparently, there is social media addiction to posting. How else do you explain this man needing to get these many posts out? Oh yeah, and Trump on, what is it? So, Truth Social? He does the same thing. So, now, even Donald Trump has confirmed that Elon Musk is completely out of control, and he has no control over what Musk, our new dictator, our traitor, is doing. He has no idea. He hears it like what we do, through the news. And meanwhile, he continues to decide what money's going to be spent, how it's going to be spent, when it's going to be spent, and if it's going to be spent, even though these funds have been approved by Congress and appropriated for certain projects. But Musk doesn't like how that money's getting spent, so it ain't getting spent. And, oh yes, he continues to conduct international foreign policy. Don't we have a guy named Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, for that? But meanwhile, Musk met with the Prime Minister Modi of India after he had a conversation with Trump in the White House. He and Modi went off to another separate private room and had a conversation that no one seems to know about except Musk and Modi. Is Musk trying to sell his satellite services from Starlink to India, where another billionaire in India is trying to sell a satellite service to the government of India? If I was Modi, I think I would stick to the billionaire in India, because we already know Musk can't be trusted. So, now, Trump, who is not a fan of FEMA and is dying to tear it down, just refused to release more FEMA funds to the state of Georgia to Governor Brian Kemp, who needs more money to finish cleanup from the hurricane that came through and devastated his state. And this weekend, we had a gigantic snowstorm that came through the Midwest and affected parts of the South. There have been deaths. There have been people stranded. People have died. These are the states that were most affected are Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana. Meanwhile, we haven't heard an effing word from our president, Mr. Trump. Dictator king, God king of the universe. What did he do? He went down to NASCAR, NASCAR in Daytona Beach, took his plane, a government plane, flew over the complex first, then took his presidential motorcade, drove around the facility more than once, and then went inside the facility and drove around the track. He took selfies of himself at the Daytona 500 for social media posting. Meanwhile, there is a tragedy unfolding in other states because of this gigantic snowstorm. We haven't heard anything about Trump trying to console the people, talking about the funds that FEMA is going to release to help them, about getting these people from FEMA moving to bring equipment and help to restore the power grid. No, all I'm hearing about is Trump at the Daytona 500 and nothing about the citizens being harmed by this storm. But then again, he doesn't like FEMA, and I believe Musk did stop spending FEMA funds because he doesn't like FEMA either. So, now the first time Trump was in office, he passed this huge tax cut for the upper 1%, the billionaires. And Mitch McConnell, who was then in charge of the Senate, shepherded this gigantic tax cut through. He made sure it got passed. Because back then, the Republicans again had both houses. So of course it passed. But these tax cuts were set to expire in 2024. Now, as we know, Trump ran for president once again in 2020 and failed. And oops, there was that seditious act on January 6th where he tried to take over the government. It failed. Biden was sworn in as president, and now why he didn't repeal these tax cuts, I don't understand. But now these tax cuts are expiring, and they are coming back to haunt Trump, who actually meant them to humiliate the next president elected in 2024. Who, oh my gosh, is Trump? And once again, he wants to renew these tax cuts. These tax cuts for the upper 1%, for people who don't need more money. People who barely pay taxes because they have very smart accountants, they have tax shelters, they have ways to make their money taxed, exempt, and tax-free. But we got to pass this. And because of a bill passed many years ago that tax cuts have to be offset by other government cuts, the Republicans are proposing to shred, if not completely destroy, the social safety net. These cuts are going to offset the cuts for the taxes for the billionaires. So to finance these tax cuts, we are just going to do away with the social safety net. They want to cut welfare, temporary financial assistance to families. They want to cut food stamps, known as SNAP, that is Supplemental Nutrition something. And they want to cut Medicaid, health insurance for the poor. They want to cut Medicare and Social Security. Medicare and Social Security are the money for the seniors, a fallback retirement income. The only thing keeping many senior members out of poverty, the only thing paying for some folks' ability to stay in a nursing home rather than being cared for and paid for by their families. Remember what I said last time? Some states do have filial piety laws, which means kids are responsible for taking care of their parents. If we lose Medicare, Medicaid, and cuts to Social Security, these old folks who didn't have the resources to put away money for a proper retirement, who's going to take care of them? Are we going to throw our old folks out on the streets? Put them in homeless shelters that are not safe and are certainly not set up to accommodate people with physical and medical needs beyond the chore of just trying to provide a place for someone to sleep and a meal, because they only have X number of spaces and X number of beds, and these people aren't getting in. So once again, I'm asking, who's going to take care of these people? Are their families going to get together? Are they going to be trying to combine and pool resources when they don't even have enough for themselves? Are kids going to go hungry again? Are families going to be living in cars and vans on the street? Who's going to be providing the medical care for the old people? Or maybe we should just go back to that old Republican insurance policy that says, let them die. So, why are the richest Americans getting a tax cut on the backs of the poorest Americans in this country? All I can say is these people are so out of touch that all they want is more money. More money that they could spend in one lifetime, their children's lifetimes, their grandchildren's lifetime. But more money in their pockets is more money. Power to the billionaires. 'Cause, hey, we the people don't count. We the people don't need anything. We can just live off of the grass in the ground, the air and the atmosphere. And that's how we're going to survive. Or maybe we're not. Government lies, people die. This is just plain cruelty. So, Trump passed 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel. Most of our car components are made out of aluminum and steel. Our car components are manufactured all over the world. So they're going to come into this country with a 25% tariff on them. Steel's going to come into this country raising its price by 25%. Aluminum's going to come into this country raising its price by 25%. Canned pop that goes into aluminum cans is going to just be transferred to plastic bottles. But I don't think we can make car motors out of plastic. So, the price of your car, because your car parts, is going to go up. And because car parts cross boundaries, international boundaries, I mean, the U.S. car manufacturing is spread out between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. So every time some car part passes across the border, they're going to throw another 25% tariff on it. That's frightening. Some things crisscross borders multiple times. We're not going to be able to afford cars. We're not even going to be able to afford to put our cars together. And that's going to mean layoffs in the car industry. That means whatever cars do get made, the prices are just going to increase. And cars, for some people, are pretty unaffordable as is. And in turn, the resources of used cars means their prices are going to climb too. Because where else do people have to turn if they can't afford a new car is a used car. And if they can't afford used cars, well, what are they going to do? Ride a bicycle? Walk? Hitchhike? Hope public transportation goes where they want to go? Because public transportation usually isn't available in rural areas. And public transportation doesn't always go where the jobs are in a city. Oh, and here's another good one. Trump just doesn't like green energy. Trump thinks that we should rely on dirty energy, like oil and coal. But we're trying to phase that out. We are trying to create energy from renewable resources. And that involves creating green energy. Biden's infrastructure bill included funding for green energy. And that meant working with companies to provide money, to create jobs, to build infrastructure for people to manufacture the components of things like these giant windmills you see when you're driving out west. I'm even starting to see them around my town. And I'm not anywhere out west. I mean, these things, these propellers on these windmills, I've seen them on trucks. I mean, they are longer than a flatbed truck. They are so big and so huge. Well, I'm rambling. But anyway, so these jobs were created, and thanks to Biden, they were pinpointed to areas that needed employment. And where is the areas that need employment? Red states, rural areas, areas with high unemployment. Well, guess what? Thanks to cutting that funding and refusing to spend the money, those factories are closing down. Those people are losing their jobs. And the people who pay for the green infrastructure aren't going to be investing money in projects due to the uncertainty of government. So, guess what, folks? You're unemployed. And now that you're unemployed, the social safety net is being shredded, so you don't deserve any money because you should just go out and get yourself a job. Oh, wait, you're just a lazy bum. Oh, wait, your job got cut because Trump cut the funding that paid for your job. And he's cutting the social safety net that you are going to have to rely on because you don't have a job, because you're a lazy bum who won't go out and get a job. Congratulations, lazy bum. No social safety net for you. No job for you. You lost your job. And there's not another one to replace it because those were brand new jobs brought to your area. So, thanks, Trump. Thanks for destroying jobs and destroying the social safety net. And red states, you MAGA folks, you people who voted for this man who's nothing but chaos incarnate, congratulations. You just voted against your own best interests. Meanwhile, internationally, the American empire is declining. Back after World War II, when Europe was devastated and America and Canada remained untouched, the U.S. became the provider of funds and resources to rebuild Europe, turning it back into the powerhouse it is today. The dollar became the gold standard. In fact, it became better than gold. And in turn, manufacturing provided Americans with jobs, provided us with opportunities to climb, provided opportunities to our children to improve their lives, to make their lives better than their parents' lives have been. But now, the American empire is declining. Trump is destroying our alliances with the Europeans. Trump is destroying our alliances with our neighbors, Canada and Mexico, our two biggest trading partners, by employing tariffs on their products coming into this country. He is disrupting supply chains. He is creating uncertainty in the markets. He is making it impossible for big businesses who have invested millions of dollars in long-term projects to even know what's going to happen next. Projects that are going to cost more. Projects that are probably going to be canceled. But this is going to make America great again because our jobs have already fled to Asia, where labor's cheaper. And meanwhile, there's an alternative to the United States and the G7, the European countries, rising. It's called BRICS. This was created by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And now 22 other countries have joined them. They are looking for an alternative currency to the dollar. They are looking for alternative banking systems to move money around the world without it being under the control of the United States. And hey, Trump just wants us to be the powerhouse, to be self-sufficient, self-reliant. We don't need anybody. The globalization of the economy means nothing if we can bring it all back home and be self-sufficient, because we don't need to rely on anybody. And who's going to benefit from this? Once again, only the rich, because they're going to be the only ones with money. They're getting us ready to be poor again. Grindingly poor. Poor the way we used to see what they call poverty porn in other countries. Get ready for it, America. Tell your kids to get ready for it, because your kids aren't going to live better than you. Your kids aren't even going to have a chance to live better than you. Thank you, Mr. Trump. Thank you for rushing to destroy our country, rushing to destroy our economy, rushing to destroy the world's economy. Because so goes America, so goes the world. And here, in a couple of WTF moments, and the morning headlines that I really haven't had a chance to get into, I just saw this morning that Trump wants to pave over the iconic and historic White House Rose Garden. He wants a patio there, just like he's got at his southern home, Mar-a-Lago. We need to make the White House look just like his southern home, Mar-a-Lago. Except the White House isn't Mar-a-Lago, and he is destroying a piece of history created by the many wives of presidents since Kennedy back in the 60s, when she created the first rose garden, bringing in rare and beautiful flowers to create an iconic presence that has been used for many ceremonies, signings of bills. Trump himself has signed many executive orders there, and many, many, many press conferences held outside. But hey, what's a piece of history to a man like Trump who never read a history book in his life? So, got something to look forward to, destroying another piece of Americana. Thank you, Mr. Trump. Oh, and here, just for fun, in my state of Ohio, 2 Ohio lawmakers are proposing a bill called Conception Begins at Erection. In other words, if a man does not intend to procreate and a woman becomes pregnant because he didn't use a condom, it's a felony. A man is responsible for intercourse that produces a child if it was not his intent to produce one. Hey, will this bill get introduced? I doubt it. Republicans aren't going to introduce such a ridiculous bill. They can pass bills that say life begins at conception, when literally the sperm enters the egg, life begins. Before it implants in a womb, life begins. When it's barely 4 cells, life begins. But where are the men's responsibility in this? It's always the woman's responsibility. So, when a man goes to all 50 states, he has the same rights. A woman's rights change from state to state. A child conceived in or out of wedlock is her responsibility. If she gets divorced, the children are her responsibility. Where's the man in this equation? Where are women's rights in this equation? I don't know, but it doesn't look good for women in this country. It doesn't look good for children in this country, because we are doing all of this for the children. Cutting off Medicaid, cutting off the Children's Health Insurance Act, gutting the Department of Education that provides funding for children. And we all know the red states get back more in taxes than they provide to the federal government. But red states have a rather dismal record of paying for education in this country. Schools are underfunded, teachers are underpaid, and with gutting the Department of Education and reducing the funds provided by the federal government to the states, educational opportunities are going to get worse. But hey, Republicans are just doing it for the children. Thank you. I'm Kathy, the Celtic Mink, commenting on the day's news.